Hey, I'm Jesse Anderson from Quackalope.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
No, aren't you supposed to introduce yourself now?
No, I don't do that.
Isn't that how this goes?
No.
Hi, he's Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And this is a dual video that we're doing.
Sort of.
Back and forth hybrid. We just got finished recording over on my channel your top 10 that will be in your top 100 next year.
10 prototypes I played this past year that, from 2021, that I think are going to be my top 100 next year and or when they show up.
So if you're here looking for that video from the person who runs this channel, literally click the link in the top of this video description, swing over to my channel, and watch him talking over there. Now that 80% of the audience is gone, this is going to be my video where I break down. I haven't done a top 100, so instead I approached it 10 prototypes that will challenge my top 20.
Yep.
So these will be in my top 100. That's not the conversation I'm having. I'm looking at where do I think they're going to rank, and I bet about 3 of them might squeeze into my top 10, depending on how the final copies come in.
I think 3's ambitious, but I'm curious. I am curious.
I might have a more flexible top 10 than you.
That's very possible.
The only thing rigid in my top 10 is number 0 and number 1. Just immovable objects.
What's 1?
Well, bus. Naturally.
Oh, bus. Bus is immovable to you?
No, it's not. It'll probably shift up or back a little bit. Here's the fun thing for those of you that like listening to this guy complain about people's top 10 lists, because he's given me so much crap about bus. I have been playing it with every person in our friend group around him.
Except me.
And as they've been finishing, they've been coming back to Alex going, maybe not his number 1, but we can see where he got there.
Yeah, all I heard is maybe not his number 1.
But we can see where he got there. Let's get this started. Like we said, swing over to check out Alex's top 10 prototypes that'll be in your top 100.
Probably.
This is my top 10 that'll be in our top 20. Should I start with number 10?
Isn't that how... Is there another order you go with?
It is how this works.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I typically go like 6, 7, 5...
And now you know why bus is now... I now know why bus is your number 1.
Number 10 for me is going to be Fall of the Mountain King.
Ooh.
Yeah. It has to be. We like area control in this household.
Sure.
We just do, by nature.
Yeah.
And this is one that I think Shira would stab me if it came in and it wasn't competing somewhere in that top ranking.
I think it's a good game.
Now, the way I have these hierarched is this is probably the least likely at the moment to be stealing a number 1 spot. It really depends on production quality and kind of how that final game comes in.
Yeah.
But the squeeze of area control, the balance of sort of a cooperative-ish style game where you're doing your very best to defend against invading hordes that are coming into the cataclysms, and also squabbling with each other during the course of the game.
Were you talking about the game or in general?
Both.
Okay, cool.
Both.
Cool.
Substantially both. Makes it a really, really compelling gameplay. And what I left with, after we finished the prototype, because we had to mail it on,
Sadly,
was a deep desire to continue playing it. And I haven't been able to fulfill that yet.
It's really, really good. It's really... I'm curious, because I know Devin, for instance. Devin prefers Into Deep to Fall of the Mountain King. He likes both, but I know he prefers Into Deep. I'm curious. I'm curious to see, because I know everyone in our group thought it was fantastic, and we like area control. So it's not just me or just you, but like, I am
The
very
competition for me is going to be between the Grandfather in the Hall of the Mountain King and Fall of the Mountain King.
They're totally different games.
They are, but the feeling and the atmosphere that they give, and I'm such a thematic player.
Yeah, for you. Okay.
That the feeling and the atmosphere that they give are very, very similar. I have in the Hall of the Mountain King in my collection. Both are going to be there. I'm curious to see which one, after a few repeated plays, which one ends up ranking higher than the other. That's the question for me.
Cool.
And it's leaning towards Fall of the Mountain King at the moment. Swinging down to number 9. Number 9 is a game I have not played. The only one on this list.
I mean, technically, by the strict definition of the terms of this list, that's actually eligible. I'm just surprised.
The only one on this list that I have not played. It is here because of the acumen of the publisher.
Okay.
Because I have slowly been playing through all of the publisher's other games and falling in love with them, despite myself.
Okay.
And because you have played it.
Okay.
And I think you liked it, and I think I'm going to like it more than you.
I got nothing.
This is going to be Voidfall by Mindflash.
Voidfall. Oh, that's reasonable.
A aggressive little 4X experience that could be head-to-head, could be cooperative, could be solo.
What's your favorite 4X game?
Right
now.
Alright, favorite 4X game right now is going to be Space Empires, but that's just not fair. It's already in my top 10, it's completely inaccessible, And I love it.
You'll love Voidfall.
And I love it because of that. Like, a 4X game should be a beefy dive into a system that maybe you don't table more than once a year, but it is heavy and inaccessible, but gives you so many different opportunities for this fog of war exploration, for this for the kind of harvesting of resources, development of asymmetric settlement factions. And Voidfall, when it comes to the lineup of Mindclash games, is going to hopefully give me what Space Empires gives me, which is already in my top 10, with the context that they're going to have insane storage options, insane production quality, beautiful artwork.
Yep.
I think it might be, for myself, a contender for being the 4X game in my top 10 list.
Yeah, I haven't played it. I definitely want to play it.
Oh, you haven't played it?
I haven't.
I saw your coverage on it. I thought you got a chance to demo it.
No. There were two. What's it called? There were two games out at the same time.
We played Fractal
and
together.
Fractal. I got a chance to play Fractal. I didn't have a chance to play Voidfall.
Okay.
I absolutely want to play Voidfall, but I haven't actually played a Mindclash game yet, so I don't have a good feeling as to...
Anachrony, Cerebria.
I own
We're
Anachrony.
currently getting into Tricarion.
Until I play a Mindclash game, I can't even say at all that, I think it'll inherently be my top whatever. But yeah, that's a reasonable pick for you.
So I can be. The first Mindclash game I ever played was Cerebria, and it was inaccessible for me.
Yep.
It was way too early for me to be in this hobby space.
Yeah. That's how I feel about Vinhos from Vital Sorta. I played it way back in the day, and I want to give it another shot.
But then we bridged into Anachrony. I fell in love with Anachrony, bridged back into Cerebria with Shira, and it played it in the right environment with the right player count, and it's a joy. We're getting into Tricarion now.
But you played Anachrony again?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
No, I love it. I
With
didn't play
Shira?
it with you. No, I haven't played it with Shira
okay,
yet.
fine.
Yeah. I haven't played it since I moved up here.
I want to play it.
Yes, it's fantastic.
I own it.
Here's the thing. I really... Mindclash is becoming one of those publishers that I think everything they put out, if I can get right for the game's going to be right for me.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're hard to get into. They're a big thing to pick
I want
up.
to play it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Swinging into... I keep saying swinging into. I need to stop saying that.
It's okay. I always say... I can't remember what I say, but I say repeated stuff when I go to the next stage.
Number 8 is going to be one that you're going to have to tell me if it counts or not.
Okay, it doesn't count then. Almost inherently.
And it's here because so far, not a one of them have been on any of my top lists.
Okay.
But this is an iteration on a game system that will be arriving this next year. And,
Marvel Zombies? No.
No. Go one step back.
One step back is an iteration.
Undead or Alive.
Undead or Alive.
The cowboy theme. Yeah, Zombicide has never been a gem of a game for me.
Yeah.
It is growing on me, largely due to you and Shira knowing how to teach someone the game system, knowing how to put someone in the right environment for it. And out of all the predecessors, Undead or Alive is the one that fits the theme that I'm the most excited about.
Okay.
And I don't know when production schedules have everything arranged.
Should be soonish.
I'm not
that
I'm not
soon.
under the impression that Marvel Zombies will be there next year.
Marvel Zombies doesn't count because it's hasn't even launched yet.
Not even
We can't count that.
And so for me, I think Undead or Alive will be the first Zombicide that is in a location. It's not going to be in the top 10.
Okay.
I don't think any Zombicide is going to be in the top 10 until possibly Marvel shows up.
Marvel Zombies might for me.
But I think the top 20 is probably an argument. And I really like the Western theme. I like the rolling train. I want to put that
I like the theme.
I want to put on some country music. I liked the gameplay that we had quite a lot on TTS. It was a lot of fun. It still felt challenging. It's lining up for me.
So, and I'll give it that. I'll give it Undead or Alive. It was the first Marvel Zombicide. The first Zombicide since Black Plague that I actually lost. So I already liked it from that stance. The gameplay, meaning it was definitely challenging. Definitely had that. I'm very happy with that. I'm very curious to see how the final game shows up. I liked a lot of the elements we talked about. I liked the train. I liked some of the things I did differently. Still felt like Marvel. Stop saying Marvel. It still felt like Zombicide, but in a way that I was compelled by it. I would say it had a higher chance of staying in my collection until Marvel Zombies came along.
Sure.
It still might, but I'll have. It'll show up.
For me, it comes down to the nature of this is a genre that is growing on me, or a category. I mean, Zombicide's a genre, I suppose, that is growing on me.
It's infecting,
and this is, I believe, probably the first one that is going to hit a lot of little dots that I want.
Cool.
I'm going to go to number 7. Which has a strong competitor in our household. We played this competitor last night, not on camera, not for any other reason than just to play it. We're going with, any guesses?
Beast.
Beast, absolutely. Number 7 is going to be Beast, which is going to be a one versus many hidden movement game. And the way I describe it to people is, if you want to play a game 2-player, if you want to play a hidden movement game 2-player, you grab Mind MGMT. It's fantastic, right? Across the board. But the counterpart to that, the thing that's sitting on the shelf right next to that, is going to be the 3 and then 4 player specifically iteration on that. Special asymmetric powers and abilities, the fact that you get to draft cards that both you and the Beast get to benefit from throughout the course of play, an incredible map that has its own theme when it comes to the experience that you're playing, and unlike a lot of the other hidden movement games that I've experienced, you're actually going up against different creatures in different scenarios with different hunters.
Yes, it has,
and
it's very
all
different.
of those different elements really make for a brand new, unique experience every time you sit down.
Yeah, the different creatures and monsters in Beast is one of the best things about it. It's one of those things you kind of forget, but like very often...
You forget that it's unique to it.
It's unique to most other games in the genre don't have that much that the enemy can have. Maybe they have an ability card or two, but not a lot going on in that sense. And then the drafting. I think every time I sit down to play Beast, I forget that drafting's a part of it, and then I start playing again. I'm like,
and then you're like, oh, this is lovely.
That's right.
Wow.
The drafting. Because every single card, it has that classic thing about drafting that I love, which is I'm sitting there thinking, I really want that card, and I'm thinking, there's no way in hell I'm passing you this card. And so it has that tension every single time. I adore Beast. It is absolutely phenomenal. I agree with you. Mind MGMT at 2 is better. By the way, Beast, to be clear, Beast at 2 is fantastic, but Mind MGMT I think is better at 2.
I think you should own both of them. If this is a genre that you love, these are the indie darlings that are as far as... and I've played Dracula. I've played a collection of your hidden movement games.
These 2 are the best.
These 2 are the best. If I'm wrong about this, leave a comment down below and tell me the weird indie title that you have on your list.
After you've played these, of course. Because that's...
No, leave the comment now.
No, I'm saying...
I won't get to it till after
you can't say these aren't the best 2. I think
fair.
these are legitimately the best 2 hidden movement games, and I think most people who enjoy the genre will agree. Not everyone, but I think it's one of those times where I'm not just willing to say my own
I would go so far as to say, if you enjoy the genre, you're going to like the game, whether or not it becomes your favorite of the genre.
It'll become your favorite.
One of them will. One of them certainly will. It depends on your player count. Let's go to number 6. I don't think you ever played this one.
Ooh, I'm very excited.
This is going to be from the creator of Dale of Merchants.
Oh, I did not play this. You think this is gonna make it? This is challenging.
Lands of Galzyr. Wow. It is. It really is, and it's not. Here's the thing for you. Why it might not challenge yours. This is a immersive, app-driven, story-driven game, and it is incredibly well-written and incredibly thematic. As you're building out your decks, as you're getting new quests and kind of growing your narrative as your little creature, you're able to dive into, paragraph after paragraph of unique custom text for every single story that you're playing in. It has a unique element as well that every location on the board has some sort of direct integration and changes based on how you've interacted with it throughout the course of the game. So you could go to just a country hillside and take a break there, and that'll change the nature of what you're playing. It's really immersive. It's really well done. I don't know that I'm going to play it heavy multiplayer.
I want to play it.
It is an open world sort of go through the experience of the game, and when you end, you end. And there's some degree of point scoring, but it's not the point of the game. The point of the game is the story that's being told, and Samia has done an excellent job.
Listen, I like Destinies, and I don't think the point is winning. I'm more than happy to dive into Lands of Galzyr. It's absolutely a game that's on my radar, and I definitely want to play it.
Yeah, it's really high up there.
I'm happy you like it that much.
Let's go to number 5. This is another one that I think by the pure nature of it is not on your radar.
Kingdom Death Monster.
You have played this one, though.
Ooh. Okay.
This is going to be a small game. It's the second from this publisher. The artwork is immaculate. A little bit abstracted.
Is it... Oh, wait. No. Second from the publisher. It's the card story one.
It is the card story one. This is going to be Spire's End Hildegard.
Spire's End was lovely. Not my top 10, but lovely. Not my top 100, but lovely.
Spire's End, the core game, did also not make it in my top 10. Mm-hmm. That being said, it was right on the edge of it. If I was going to make a top 20, it would be competing for a spot in there for sure.
It was lovely.
I love story-driven games, and I love applications of unique dice mechanics. If you can hear kids screaming in the background, by the way...
No, they don't exist.
You've got a herd of them.
Yes.
I believe that's the correct term. Once you get to 4, it's upgraded to a herd. Yeah. Here's the thing. Spire's End does 2 things really, really well. Tells a very captivating story that is different, is branching as you're going through it, as if you're playing through a choose-your-own-adventure storybook, which is something that's nostalgic for me. But it also had a way of playing with what you knew about the game in really compelling ways, changing the nature of how the dice were utilized, or the way the simple little card puzzle was solved, that made the fights start developing and made you feel like you were playing a more advanced and a more complicated game that was what you expected to come next.
Yeah.
Hildegard is going to iterate on that system.
So I never explained
It starts off simple. Hildegard starts off. You've only played the prototype.
Yeah.
I've played a little bit farther than you have. I've also talked with the designer quite a lot.
No, the prototype I went through the whole thing. Everything they had.
I've played a little bit farther than you
okay.
have, beyond the prototype, and I've talked with the designer about some elements that are coming down the line. And for me, he is going to continue not only playing with a simple story that branches out in infinite number ways, not infinite, but
Sure.
a ton of different ways, paired with playing with those systems that you become familiar with. And I love that in a game. I love that a game gives you 3 dice and a card, and the next time you face a battle, 2 cards come out and they change everything.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my experience of Hildegard. It was fun to dive into the game. It had the choose your own adventure story. I know that while I did feel that it was mechanically light, I was very specific about the fact that I had the first chapter and a limited amount of stuff.
Yep.
So I'm curious, but honestly, even if that were the final game, I'd still enjoy it. It's just a question of how much further it goes. But the sense of the fact that you can go through like a single deck of like, I don't know, this was one chapter. It was one chapter out of 4 or something. You had maybe 80 cards, whatever it was, but there were tons of pathways through it, all of them constantly presenting new things to be mindful of, and different ways the story branches, like a lot of stuff going on, and just enough memory that diving into a second time is like, okay, I know to be a little bit more mindful of that person over there. That old hag over there is not as nice as she seems at first glance. I'll remember that, thank you very much. Very, very solid.
And
game.
you never played the original, right?
Correct.
The original, about halfway through, flips the script. And I love it for it. I love it for it.
Okay.
Number 4 for me.
Did we skip 5? Was that 5?
That was 5.
Really? Oh, I just lost track. Okay, cool.
That was
cool,
5.
Cool.
Number 4 for me. I want the first game from this publisher so bad.
First game from this publisher. Dun, 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 dun,
You have it
dun.
sitting
I don't know what this is.
somewhere. Like, you just got it in, I believe. Because you also
Is it
finished.
Titans?
You also finished this game and said to yourself, I'd really like to go to the first game that this publisher put out. This is going to be the most immersive, ambitious...
Oh, Arydia.
Yes, Arydia.
Oh, okay, yes.
The first game's literally on the shelf right here.
Zia.
Here's the thing. If you love adventuring games, Skyrim or RuneScape back in the day, if you want to go out on a heroic quest and have narrative choices and feel like you're playing an RPG, but not be playing an RPG...
Arydia's fantastic.
It's so good. The writing's fantastic. The way that the board starts developing as you play is wonderful. The choice when you're kind of upgrading your own gear and going on various quests is really, really compelling. But then also, as you come to different environments and scenarios, you have a whole series of actions that you can take, and they result in different things. You have narrative pathways where the other player is encouraged to interact or react with little pieces of text that they're supposed to utilize to engage with you as you play. I love this game.
It really is fantastic. It's so ridiculously amazing. I mean, like we talked about in the other video, because like there's been overlap. We haven't been covering specifically what the overlap is. You can check that other video out. But like I will just straight up say, Arydia was 100% one of mine.
Sure. I'm not spoiling anything. I'm not spoiling anything.
Arydia is an amazing, amazing game. It is such a ridiculously good experience. It is. And it's in a genre that isn't even my ideal genre.
It's not.
It's not.
I was surprised when it got to your list. Because I thought for sure it was one that was only going to be on mine.
No, it's so good. It's so good. I sat there and I watched the Kickstarter and I was like, I can safely pass. It looks compelling, but it's leaning heavily into stuff that I like.
And then you got a prototype.
And then I got a prototype and it was absolutely amazing.
And
it was
$280 later.
And then $280 later, I have the full game coming. It is that wasn't that much, but whatever it was so good. And what they did with the game was incredible, and the way the story unfolds and things unlock, and suddenly you see a small child around the corner and you talk to the small child and you have a conversation. The conversation can go in different pathways and it changes the world around you in different pathways. It really felt like they had managed to do what a video game accomplishes in a board game, but I prefer board games, so that's a win for me. I was so compelled by it.
Yep, I absolutely cannot wait. Good
choice. Along with many others.
Moving on to my final 3.
Yes.
Now, I told you at the beginning of this video, I think 3 of these are realistically competing for a spot in my top 10.
Okay.
And I mean that now. That is without, that is without the finished copies coming in.
Okay.
And these 3 are going to be that. The last ones, the last 7, that's how math works.
Yes.
Could still have a chance.
Okay.
But it requires
more work.
It requires
more plays.
A little bit more adaptation, a little bit more plays, another tap into it for you, if you will. Number 3 for me, that I could see definitely squeezing its way in, is going to be Resurgence.
Oh, wow. That is high for you.
Yes. Resurgence is a bag-building worker placement. It's a Euro-style game in a post-apocalyptic theme which twists that narrative. But what you're going to be doing in it is you're going to be doing something very similar to Orleans, where you're slowly getting workers, placing them in a bag, pulling them out, and then putting them onto different zones on the map. You're going to be using those workers to upgrade your settlement, go on various quests to take accomplishments, and also upgrading your tribe, or your people that you have, that you're cycling back in your bag, and so on and so forth. Plays quick, plays clean, fantastic theme. I really love the bag-building worker placement genre,
insanely good.
And there's not a lot of games that compete in that space. Orleans is there, and I'm getting a copy of the Deluxeified everything, because it's one of those games that is just insanely good. And Resurgence does that, and then also twists the theme a little bit. And the only thing that may or may not squeeze it in is, one, the nature of numbers and whether or not there's room, and two, I do want a bit more of the post-apocalyptic setting coming through with the actual gameplay, which I know you stabbed me for.
I'm
but
okay with it.
Listen, the Kickstarter didn't say it wasn't happening.
Resurgence is such a ridiculously good game. My only surprise is not that it's not on your. It's not that it's on your list.
Yeah.
It's good that it's on your list. My surprise is how high it is on your list.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought I liked it more than you. Turns out you like it more than me.
No, I really like it.
Absolutely fantastic. I would sit down to play it any single day of the week. There are so many ridiculously good games, and Stan Kodonsky is responsible for way too many of those.
He is responsible. Yeah, I mean, honestly, we should try him.
Yeah. Endless Winter, Rurik, all those things.
No, he should be in trouble for that.
He should be in trouble.
Here's the thing. This one is one of those games. There's some games that I play, and the single experience of it is insane. And I'm talking to you and Sheer about it for the next week straight, and I have to get everyone else to play it. And Resurgence wasn't that. Resurgence, however, was the first play was really good. The second play was even better. The third play was really frustrating because I did terrible and it was on camera. And then the fourth and the fifth and so on and so forth. And every play has been consistent and better. It's been a yes and. It hasn't ever been the high. But I don't think games that make it and stay in my top 10 are always the high. I don't think they're often the high.
To me, the gradient that I use, and it's an interesting gradient, but the gradient I tend to use for how good a game is I have a lot of great games in my collection, my personal collection, and they're catered to not just my taste, but to my game group's taste.
Yep.
And so I am very reluctant to ever push the games I'm supposed to cover onto my game group. Because I'm like, hey, you're sitting there playing games like Blood Rage and Terraforming Mars. I'm not going to give you this game that I enjoyed. It's good, but it's not your problem.
Yeah. And it's a prototype, and it's a...
Yeah. The ones that I know make it. The ones that I know make it are the ones where I sit there and say, I will happily push this on my game group because it's just as good as the games you're playing. Fall of the Mountain King was on that list. Resurgence was on that list.
Yep.
Those are good games.
Resurgence was played multiple times without a need to do any more
just
coverage.
Because it's fun.
Just because it was fun.
Yeah.
It's super high up there, and it has not fallen in the back of my mind in terms of maintaining its position.
Yeah, we sent the prototype off the other day, so maybe now it does.
I know, you literally asked me for it, and I was like, no, I don't think I had it. I think we've already sent it. And you're like, we need to mail it off, man. And I'm like, I'm telling you I don't have it. And you're like, I know you have it. We need to mail it off. And then he took it and he mailed it off.
Yeah.
Number 2 for me.
Number 2.
This has probably been the game that has been talked about in more coverage this year from me, and maybe from you, than almost...
Oh, I know what it is.
Than almost any other game.
I know what it is.
I don't know what it is. I do know what it is. I know what it is in a lot of ways about this. Hey. Yeah, it is. Of course it is. This is going to be Mythic Mischief. Now, this one...
For context, that's my game shelf, not my prototype shelf.
Not his prototype shelf. This one was also on my top 10 best games of the year.
Yeah.
For the reason that you just demonstrated, this game is just in my collection. I understand.
It's right there next to Antique and For Glory and Ares Expedition.
That's a good spot on the shelf. Mythic Mischief is such a fantastic abstract game. It is a game I've continued playing after the point of no return, where it doesn't matter to you if we're playing it or not. I don't care if you go out and buy this game. I want more copies for myself.
I care. The more people buy this game, the more expansions content there'll be over time.
No, I've already put an order for like 1,700, so...
Okay, fine, they're good then.
We've already supported them enough.
Okay.
This is an abstract puzzle, and the way I describe it to people, the way I talk about it is, you're able to control 4 zones of the game state. You're able to control yourself, your opponent, the environment itself, so the terrain on the board, and the creature hunting you. And the object of the game is to use your special asymmetric player powers to maneuver yourself and your opponents and the environment of the game so that the beast that's hunting you, the Tome Keeper, marches into your opponents and avoids you on his pathway. He has a pre-generated or a scripted pathway that he's always going to follow, but you get to manipulate that.
Yeah.
It works so well. It is insanely fun at 2 players. Really solid at 3, although that's not where I recommend it.
I haven't played it at 3, and I heard you said it's good at 3. I want to try it now.
It's very solid at 3. They have standalone rules for 3. It's not just one of those toss someone else in. But 4 and 2 players where I've found it to be really, really sweet. I cannot wait for a final copy to come in, but I don't honestly need one.
I've been playing this.
Because I already have it. The
main thing I want from the final copy that I don't have in this is a nice insert, because right now I'm working with these little pod capsules. I wanted a good insert for the game, but past that, this is scene play whenever I have the right chance to do so.
I don't know of another abstract that is going to beat a position in my top 10 over this.
So for me, I mean, TAC is phenomenal. I love TAC.
Yep.
And I love Santorini. Santorini's interesting.
Sure adore Santorini.
But for me, Mythic Mischief easily takes over Santorini. Easily. It rivals TAC only because TAC I can knock out a game in 10 minutes.
Sure.
But if I had to pick and choose which one I prefer, I don't know which one I'd pick, and I think I would pick Mythic Mischief.
I've also taught Mythic Mischief to a 9-year-old and had a good game.
I haven't taught him to yet. I have not taught it to her.
I'm just throwing that out there. It is not so... It's a little complicated.
Yeah.
But it's not so insanely complicated that a quick kid couldn't pick it up.
This is a good game. This is a good game.
Number one for me is probably one of the prototypes that I was the most upset that we had to send on. Because I would have continued playing the game without a second thought forward. It's going to be Scarface.
Scarface. I thought this would be on your list. Scarface was, for context, my number 11.
Scarface was your number 11?
Number 11.
Just made knocked off the back end?
Just made the cut. I have 4 over here. We'll go through them at the end. I have 4 that didn't make my list. If you want the top 10, check out his channel. But if you want the last 4, Scarface was in there.
I've got 4 honorable mentions as well. So this will be fun to go through to see where we line up on these. Because we did the video over on my channel, and there was some crossover,
lot of overlap.
But there wasn't as much as you might think. So I am curious to see what on my list.
Much as I might think.
I was curious to see what on my list got backed off behind yours. So Scarface is one of those. Scarface for me, I don't know what it is about. I do know a lot of what it is about this game, but there's also just something beyond the compelling. It is a great theme. It's got asymmetric player powers. It has really interesting worker placement where your actions matter and they're limited across the board because every region you're going to...
It's not my favorite part of the game. I love the game.
No, combined with tableau building as you're generating resources and balancing your demand and interesting area control on the map. And not a single part of that branching element takes precedent. And then you mix in the fact that you have these interesting, powerful cards that you're adding into your hand that are able to take more and more advanced actions for you. I love the game.
It's really, really good.
I love
It's a game that it's so good. I mean, it's thematically correct, and I love the aspect of. I think one of my favorite things about it, and I'm biased because of how it worked out in my favor in that. Although I don't even remember if I won the game, but one of my favorite things was the game in which I was getting punished left, right, and center, and I basically sat there and was like, okay, y'all shutting down my neighborhoods. I'm going to the cops.
Oh, that was me. I think I took and fought you on 2 or 3 different locations.
You're taking everything away from me.
And so the beginning of the game, it was you being pummeled.
Yes.
And you went over and started investing in the precinct.
Yes.
You became just...
an informer.
A snitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I turned around and started using my actions to
ruined me.
And it was so thematically satisfying.
It was either you or Shira who won. What I do know for sure is that it was close enough it wasn't swingy.
It was so good. And then you were throwing car bombs my way and laughing like a maniac. But
and you just had this grin behind your...
It was such a good game, and it gives you those pathways. And you will have things blow up in your face, as you should. It's a mob game, but it's not punishing in the way it does so. Yeah. It just tactically forces you to be positioned, to reconvene, to think through what you want to do. There's so much good stuff in that game, and I think the final game is only going to be better with more cards. What are they called again? The scheme cards? No, they're called something. The main cards. I can't remember what they're called, but there's a term for the main cards that have these unbelievably strong one-time use abilities that just break the game in different ways. But there's so many of them, and they're you start the game with draft them, you get them occasionally, and they just give you things that are so ridiculously amazing. It was such a good game.
Every element of the game felt broken and unbalanced, and every element of the game was balanced and was fun to play.
It was so good. It felt kind of Blood Rage-ish in an abstracted sense. So, very different.
So I mean, here's where I have things in my mind.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what Resurgence directly competes with. I already said that I thought Voidfall competes with Space Empires.
Sure.
I think Scarface competes with the Great Wall for me.
Interesting. I wouldn't think of that, but I can hear that.
I do. That's where I think it might be bumping.
Great Wall's fantastic.
And then Mythic Mischief. I'd have to take a close look. It's got to fit in there somewhere. I'm not sure what it directly competes with.
I think Mythic Mischief cracked my top 20.
I think I had Cockroach Poker in my top 10 of all time.
Did you? Oh, maybe.
I feel like I did because it's just such a great.
Accessible. Yeah. Cockroach Poker's my top 100, not my top 10.
I'm trying to think if Mythic takes that spot.
You think of your games differently than I do.
I do.
I remember I got a comment from somebody because I had a Quackalope, which is a new to me game, made my top 100 this year, and I got a comment from somebody saying, "Wow, that means a game dropped 90 spots," and I was like, "That's not how it works." Although if it was your list, it would, because you think of things in terms of the best for a situation, and then as soon as you have that, you knock out the other.
Yes,
I think of
that
it
is
in terms
possible.
of
Yeah,
I bumped Aquatica up, and everything else moved back one spot. So yeah, it's a very different conversation, but it's just a
It's a different approach. It's a different mindset around how we organize our lists. But yeah.
Okay, so you one of my remaining 4, I was certain would make your top 10. I was certain. So,
I'm curious to see if I forgot something that's on yours.
I don't think you did.
I think 3 of my knockoffs would not have been on yours, but I think one of them should have been.
So let's go back and forth.
Okay.
My number 11, I'll start it off. My number 11 was Scarface, which we just covered.
Sure. We just dipped into. My number 11 is Six Siege.
Six Siege is my number 12.
Number 12. Okay.
No, sorry, number 13. Number 13.
Six Siege was absolutely lovely.
Yes.
Why didn't it make it up here? Maybe it's proximity. Maybe it's how soon it needs to be here. Maybe I'm not.
So the reason Six Siege was my number 13 didn't make the top 10 is the combination of 2 factors. One is while I love the game, very much love the game, the upstairs downstairs rules I never got solid, and I think I need.
There were some floating rules that we needed to tie down.
I think I need to lock in the rule set and understand the full picture. Understanding 97% is great, but it has me at 13, which is still high. But I it's very, very solid. I want to play it again. And then also because it's so strong 2-player and it's a longer 2-player game. It could be an hour and a half.
It is. It's a head-to-head. I've played it with multiple different people, and I think for me, the gut check on it was I've had a blast playing the game, but I don't know if the fun I've had has been in part due to my ignorance of everything.
It might still make my top 100. Number 13 on this list is still a competitor.
Yep. What's your number 12?
Number 12. My number 12 is Agamonia.
Agamonia. I considered it. I really did. You know, the reason it's not there is because it never sucked me in quite as much of other games like Arydia.
So good.
Arydia. And then we have some titles coming up soon, which isn't necessarily a fair comparison. We have one title coming up soon, which has already just knocked me out of the water.
Makes sense.
So
no, I'm with you on that other title as well.
Yeah.
As a direct competitor to Agamonia.
I think it is.
But immaterial, Agamonia, I think the way I'd put it is I think Arydia is the better game. I think Agamonia will get played more.
Way more accessible.
Yeah.
Next is going to be one that I think you ended up getting frustrated with.
Whoa.
Bantam West.
Yes, I did. I did.
And it's just because it was in development while we were playing, and you played 3 or 4 different versions,
basically,
of the same game.
Bantam West is a game where
you really liked the game.
I really liked the game
before you got frustrated.
No, I still like the game. I still like the game. Bantam West was a game where I played it, and I was like, "This is really, really awesome. Let's play it again." We played it again. It's like that's really good. And then they had rule changes, and we came back for a third play, and they're like, "Okay, here are the things that changed." I'm like, "Those are all good changes. I like them. Great." Came back for a fourth play. Here's all the things that changed. I'm like, "These are good changes. Could you stop now?" Came back for a fifth play, and they're like, "These are more changes." And I like Bantam West a lot, but as someone who's trying to cover a game, it's hard to hit a moving target.
Yeah.
I'm trying to review a game. I can't review something that's changing.
Yeah.
So as a reviewer, as a player, wouldn't have bothered me. As a reviewer, I felt like I'm reviewing something that's moving a lot more than most prototypes, which is good for the final copy, but I grew a little frustrated.
I played the most recently, and I really like the changes he's made.
I think it's a good game.
The question for me, and the reason it is in the top 10, is where does it actually end up? What's the final game when it shows up to my doorstep? Because I don't know yet.
And that was my frustration as a review. I'm reviewing the game. I'm giving an opinion of a moving target.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. It just is. It made my job harder.
Number 12 on my list is not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all.
No.
Not bad. So you do 13 yet? You do 12, 13?
I did 12.
My 13 is Six Siege. Back to you.
Okay, back to me is going to be...
My 14 is not something you played.
I don't know if you've played this one either. Interesting. My 14th is going to be Vampire the Masquerade
Have not played.
Chapters.
Have not played.
Specifically.
Don't know anything about it.
It's a really, and I don't know if we actually played a late end prototype. I don't know when the campaign actually happened. I'd have to check because I was looking through what we've done in the last year, and it was written down my list, but they never stuck enough to be there. So it was one of those that got knocked out pretty early on.
Gotcha.
But this game had some of the most immersive dialogue sequences that I've ever played. It had little flip books for every interaction that you might have, and you kind of dive down this rabbit hole of story. And it's based off of Vampire the Masquerade, the big kind of narrative TV show and sequence. I think it did a really, really good job at immersing you in this environment and allowing you to play as or play through a character in a similar way to Arydia did, except on a grander scale. So instead of a few answers, you had full conversations, and I really liked that system. And that was the kind of the core thing that was drawing my attention to it.
For me, 14 is one that you haven't played, although you'll be somewhat familiar, is Ragnarok's.
Oh, sure.
Ragnarok's from Grey Fox Games. Competitor with Santorini.
You knocked Santorini, and I guess Mythic Mischief knocked that?
Well, we didn't knock Santorini. What do you mean knock Santorini?
Well, you said Mythic Mischief, like Ragnarok.
I don't view them as I don't view them as
Ragnarok. I know, but Ragnarok, you said might beat Santorini.
No, other way around. I think Santorini still beats Ragnarok.
Still beats Ragnarok.
But Ragnarok's I enjoyed enough as a competitor to Santorini. Same designer, different system, but I really liked it. I think it has the chance to be in the top 100.
Where was Santorini this year for you?
It was top 100. I can't remember where exactly. It was like 70ish.
Okay.
Like, I can see Ragnarok's being high 100.
Yeah.
I can see it. And I might not either. I would say from those, if you really look at it, my top 13 are the ones that I think that are most likely to be in the top 100. I had to cut it down. My top 14 already starts moving into I'm not quite as certain. And that's why I stopped at 14, because my initial list had like 20 plus, but I was able to narrow it down more accurately to the ones I think have a serious chance.
I have two here.
Go for it.
One that I just don't know, and you don't know as well, and another one that you've definitely played.
Okay.
So Distilled is going to be the one that you have played.
Interesting.
And I'm really compelled as to what the final version of that game holds, because I have both loved and not loved experiences with it. I've loved the advanced gameplay, but the way they introduce you to it hasn't been a selling point. And so that was not... It was never really in contention, but it was definitely sitting there as an option.
Sure.
And then the last one is a little game that you completely wrote off, that I have coming in, called Wutaki.
Wutaki? I don't even remember that one.
Yes, so it is this weird, quirky...
Wutaki! I know!
The artwork
yes, I remember now.
And I was compelled by the artwork of it, because I like weird and quirky. It's a, gentle little indie title.
Yeah.
And I sat down and got a full play-in with the designer on TTS.
Wow.
And I really liked it. I have it backed. I have it on the way. We're going to play it. I don't know.
I'll play it.
I don't know that it earns a spot in this list.
Even back then, I remember you were so charmed by it that I wanted
really
to play
charmed.
it, but you were charmed with it with like 6 days left in the campaign. Yes. I was like, I don't have time to...
I actually went out of my way to do content for it. I printed out some stuff so I could talk to people about it. I was really charmed about it. It's a worker placement. It's a Euro-style game with a really twisted, unique theme. And also has this ebb and flow of feeding this big creature and kind of sacrificing all your goods, but then at moments going in and taking a more hurtful action to pull all those goods back. It's a Euro game with a good amount of hitting and take that between the players.
Very compelling.
And I really, really liked it. I also, when it actually gets in, I have no idea. It could be a game that is 500 on my list.
Okay.
But it could be a game that's top 50 for me. I just don't know. And the nature of not knowing means it's still floating.
Very intrigued. Well, that's basically it. That is a list. If you want to see, well, I mean, this was your list. If you want to see his video, you probably made it over here already, or you just skipped it, which is
remember,
weird.
at the very beginning, 80% of the people will see the click-through rate.
Yep.
And it's within the first 60 seconds when we said that your video was actually over on my channel, it was an 80% click-through that immediately went over to my channel.
That's where it is.
And we maintained an average viewership of 70 people here until
That's such a shame. They don't know that Six Siege is a really good game. Because we didn't talk about it in the other video.
We didn't.
So Six Siege is a really good game.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Scarface a little bit, but Six Siege is a really good game. In any case, and as always, you finish off. You finish off whatever. How do you finish off your videos?
I say whatever the case, whatever you do.
Yeah, go for it.
Remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time.
That sounds like good advice.
And you say...
Have a good one.